How does a ship, fully provisioned and seaworthy, become a ghost? In December 1872, the brigantine Mary Celeste was discovered adrift in the vast emptiness of the Atlantic, a silent testament to an unspeakable mystery. Her sails were set, her cargo of industrial alcohol untouched, and in the captain's cabin, a meal lay half-eaten on the table. The crew's belongings were neatly stowed, their valuables secure. Yet the ship was utterly deserted. 10 souls, including Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife Sarah, and their 2-year-old daughter Sophia, had vanished without a trace. There were no signs of a struggle, no evidence of piracy, and the ship's log offered no clues, its final entry an unremarkable notation days prior. It was as if they had been plucked from the deck by an unseen hand. For over a century, this chilling maritime enigma has haunted sailors and scholars alike. Join us as we navigate the fog of history and speculation to uncover the truth behind what happened to the crew of the Mary Celeste, a story that remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the sea. The story of the Mary Celeste begins not with a storm or a pirate's roar, but with the quiet, unremarkable rhythm of commerce. On November 7, 1872, the brigantine slipped her moorings at Pier 50 in New York's East River. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of coal smoke and salt, a typical autumn day in the bustling port. At her helm was Captain Benjamin Spooner Briggs, a man of temperance, faith, and impeccable reputation. This voyage was special. He was accompanied by his wife, Sarah, and their 2-year-old daughter, Sophia, a happy family embarking on an adventure. Their cargo was 1,701 barrels of denatured alcohol, destined for Genoa, Italy, a routine, profitable consignment. The ship itself, a 282-ton vessel, was considered sturdy and reliable, having been recently refitted. As she sailed past Staten Island and into the open Atlantic, there was no premonition of doom, no dark omen in the sky. It was a picture of domestic tranquility and professional duty set against the vast canvas of the ocean. For Captain Briggs and his small company, this was simply the start of another journey, one of thousands that left the harbor that year. They were a tiny, self-contained world, charting a course toward a destination they would never reach. The normalcy of their departure is perhaps the most chilling part of the tale, a quiet prelude to an eternal silence. The ocean awaited, holding a secret it has yet to fully surrender, and the Mary Celeste sailed confidently into the heart of the mystery, becoming a name forever synonymous with the inexplicable. The sea is a patient keeper of stories, but some tales, it seems, are written in disappearing ink, leaving behind only the haunting question of a final, unwritten chapter for those who vanished. The ship was sound, the captain was seasoned, and the family was together. What could possibly go wrong? Nearly a month later, on December 4, 1872, another ship, the Canadian brigantine De Gracia, was slicing through the Atlantic, midway between the Azores and the coast of Portugal. Her captain, David Morehouse, knew Captain Briggs. They were friends who had supposedly dined together before their respective departures. Through his spyglass, the helmsman spotted a vessel about 5 miles distant, sailing erratically. It yellowed in the wind, its sails in slight disarray. Some were furled, others tattered. As the De Gracia drew closer, an unnerving stillness became apparent. The ship was the Mary Celeste. They hailed her, shouting across the waves, but received no reply. The silence was absolute, broken only by the creak of the ship's own timbers and the lonely cry of a gull. There was no one at the helm, no sign of life on deck. For 2 hours, Captain Morehouse and his crew observed the vessel, a growing sense of unease settling over them. The ship was not in distress. It was not sinking or damaged. It was simply empty. It drifted aimlessly, a ghost ship on a placid sea. Finally, Morehouse dispatched his first mate, Oliver DeVoe, with a small party to board the mysterious vessel. As their rowboat pulled alongside the Mary Celeste's hull, the silence seemed to deepen, amplifying the sound of their oars in the water. They were rowing toward the heart of a puzzle, completely unaware that their discovery would launch one of the most enduring maritime mysteries in history. The vessel before them was a floating enigma, a perfectly seaworthy ship with a vanished crew, a silent testament to an unknown event that had swept 10 souls from its decks, leaving it to wander the ocean alone. The air was thick with mist and unanswered questions as the men prepared to climb aboard. When First Mate Oliver DeVoe and his men swung onto the deck of the Mary Celeste, the eerie quiet was the first thing that struck them. The ship was orderly but deserted. Below deck, the scene grew even more bizarre. In the captain's cabin, they found personal belongings laid out as if in mid-use. A sewing machine with a small child's garment still under the needle, a melodeon with a sheet of music open, and the captain's logbook, its final entry from 10 days prior, noting nothing unusual. The ship's single lifeboat was missing, which seemed a logical clue, but it didn't explain the lack of any sign of panic or distress. The cargo of industrial alcohol was almost entirely untouched, ruling out a mutiny for profit. The most unsettling discovery was in the galley and mess. A breakfast meal was laid out on the table, as if the crew had been called away from their food in an instant. There was no sign of a struggle, no overturned furniture, no evidence of foul play. The ship was wet, with over 3 feet of water in the hold, but it was still perfectly seaworthy and far from sinking. The chronometer and sextant, vital navigational tools, were gone, as was the ship's register. Yet the crew's money, clothing, and pipes were left behind. It was a scene of contradictions. It looked like an evacuation, but a calm, deliberate one that made no sense. Why would a seasoned captain abandon a perfectly sound ship in the middle of the ocean? What event could compel 10 people to board a small, open lifeboat, leaving behind their possessions and a vessel that could weather almost any storm? The scene was not one of catastrophe, but of sudden, inexplicable absence. It was as if the crew had not fled, but had simply evaporated, leaving behind a table set for ghosts. A ship is just wood and iron, but a crew gives it a soul. The soul of the Mary Celeste consisted of 10 people, now lost to the sea and to time. At the center was the Briggs family. Captain Briggs was known as a pious, fair man, not the type to panic or endanger his family without extreme cause. Sarah was a capable seafarer's wife, accustomed to life on the water. Little Sophia was the light of the ship, her presence turning the vessel into a floating home. The crew was comprised of 7 men, mostly Germans. First Mate Andrew Gilling and the steward Edward Head were Americans. Volkert and Bos Lorenzen, Arian Martins, and Gottlieb Gucci. And Fakawazes, Moskinos, Gribaspo. They were all experienced sailors with good records. Nothing in their histories suggested they were prone to mutiny or madness. When the Mary Celeste was brought to Gibraltar for the salvage inquiry, these 10 names were transformed from a crew list into a roster of the vanished. The investigation, led by the notoriously suspicious Attorney General Frederick Solly Flood, began not with an open mind, but with an immediate assumption of foul play. He scrutinized every detail, searching for evidence of a crime that wasn't there. He imagined a drunken mutiny fueled by the alcohol cargo, a theory quickly debunked when the barrels were found secure. He suspected the crew of the Dei Gratia of murdering everyone and claiming salvage rights. But again, there was no evidence. The lack of answers only deepened the tragedy. These were not abstract figures, but real people with families, hopes, and futures. Their disappearance left a void not just on the ship, but in the lives of all who knew them, a wound that no investigation could ever heal. In the 19th century, the open ocean could still be a lawless place. The first and most sensational theory to explain the vanishing was piracy. The Barbary pirates of North Africa, though largely suppressed by the 1830s, still lingered in the public imagination as boogeymen of the high seas. Could a rogue band of marauders have overtaken the Mary Celeste, taken its occupants, and for some reason, left the ship and its valuable cargo behind. This was one of the avenues pursued by the Gibraltar court. They found what they believed to be evidence. A few faint stains on the deck that they interpreted as marks of a struggle, and a sword in the captain's cabin that showed traces of a reddish substance. Attorney General Solly Flood seized upon this, suggesting the crew had gotten into the alcohol, murdered the Briggs family in a drunken rage, and fled in the lifeboat. However, both of these clues quickly fell apart. The stains were found to be insignificant rust and shipboard grime. The substance on the sword was not what they suspected, and its placement was unremarkable. Most damningly for the piracy theory, nothing of value was taken. The cargo, worth a considerable sum, was intact. The crew's money and personal effects remained. Pirates are thieves. Their motive is profit. A pirate who boards a ship, gets rid of the crew, and leaves behind the treasure is not a pirate at all. The theory made for a thrilling story, but it crumbled under the slightest scrutiny. The lack of any sign of violence or theft was a powerful counter-argument. The mystery of the Mary Celeste was not a simple tale of crime. The truth, it seemed, was far stranger and more elusive than a cutlass and a Jolly Roger. The whispers of piracy faded, leaving investigators back where they started, with an empty ship and 10 missing souls. One cannot chart the true fury of the ocean. Of all the explanations, the most plausible, and perhaps most terrifying, speaks not of human malice, but of nature's sheer, indifferent power. We must consider what sailors have always known. The sea is the ultimate master. Imagine the Mary Celeste, navigating the temperamental waters near the Azores, when it encounters a phenomenon that defies belief, a rogue wave. This is not a simple storm surge, but a vertical wall of water, a liquid mountain rising from an otherwise calm sea, capable of swallowing a vessel whole. Alternatively, consider a waterspout, a ferocious maritime tornado, descending from the clouds with blinding speed. The ship's log last entry on November 25th noted fair weather, but the Atlantic's moods are notoriously fickle. Such an event would explain the crucial paradox. A terrified crew and an undamaged ship. A colossal wave could have breached the deck in a single brutal motion. A green water event that washed over the entire vessel, taking everyone with it. Captain Briggs, his wife Sarah, their 2-year-old daughter Sophia, and the 7 experienced crewmen all vanished in an instant. This theory is powerfully supported by the single missing lifeboat. In a moment of pure, instinctual panic, perhaps after a violent lurch that sent water into the hold, Briggs may have ordered the ship abandoned. They would have scrambled into the yawl, believing their sturdy brigantine was sinking beneath them. They cast off, a lifeline to a ship they thought was doomed, only to watch in horror as the Mary Celeste, resilient and empty, righted itself and sailed on. They were left behind, adrift in a small boat, their fate sealed by a tragic miscalculation. A fatal decision made in a heartbeat, leaving a ghost ship to tell a silent, incomplete tale of the sea's sudden, unforgiving wrath. Could the profound silence of the Mary Celeste be explained by the oldest and most feared tale of the sea? A mutiny. The idea is seductive in its brutal simplicity. A disgruntled crew, a heated confrontation with authority. The Attorney General for Gibraltar, Frederick Solly Flood, certainly championed this narrative during the salvage inquiry. He imagined a crew, driven to madness by the ship's cargo of alcohol, rising up in a drunken rage against Captain Briggs. But this theory immediately collides with the impeccable character of the men involved. Captain Benjamin Briggs was known throughout the maritime community as a devout Christian, a man of principle, and a respected teetotaler. More poignantly, he traveled with his wife, Sarah, and their 2-year-old daughter, Sophia. The presence of a captain's family on board has always been a powerful deterrent against insurrection. Furthermore, the cargo was not a cellar of fine wine, but 1,701 barrels of raw, denatured alcohol intended for fortifying Italian wines. It was poisonous, and experienced seamen like First Mate Albert Richardson would have surely known the dire consequences of consuming it. The most damning evidence against a mutiny, however, is the state of the ship itself. There were no signs of a struggle. No splintered doors, no overturned furniture, no hastily discarded weapons. In the crew's quarters, their belongings, including their pipes and tobacco, were left undisturbed. In the captain's cabin, a vial of sewing machine oil stood upright, a testament to the ship's calm passage. A mutiny violent enough to overpower a captain and his officers, and dispose of his family would be a messy, brutal affair. It would scar the vessel. Yet the Mary Celeste drifted in a state of eerie, domestic peace. If there was a rebellion on these waves, it was one without a fight, a takeover without a trace, leaving us to wonder what kind of silent conflict could compel 10 souls to abandon a perfectly seaworthy ship and vanish forever. Among the clues left in the silent, stagnant hold of the Mary Celeste, one stands out with chemical potency: the cargo itself. The ship was carrying 1,701 barrels of denatured alcohol, a volatile industrial spirit destined for fortification in Genoa. When the salvage crew from the Dei Gratia finally boarded, they noted in their log that 9 of these barrels were empty. This was not evidence of theft. The remaining 1,692 barrels were secure. A terrifying scenario born not of pirates or sea monsters, but of invisible fumes and rational fear. The theory, supported by modern scientific experiments, posits that a small number of barrels, perhaps constructed from more porous red oak instead of the sturdier white oak, began to leak their contents. In the confined, humid warmth of the ship's hold, the alcohol would have rapidly vaporized, creating a highly flammable and intensely pressurized atmosphere. The crew, led by the experienced and prudent Captain Briggs, would have instantly recognized the grave danger. The slightest spark could have turned their vessel into an inferno. The pressure may have built to a critical point where it blew off the main hatch cover in what scientists call a non-detonative explosive event, a powerful pressure wave without a destructive fire. This would perfectly explain the displaced hatch without any other scorch marks or signs of an explosion. Fearing a full-scale detonation was imminent, Briggs likely ordered an immediate, but temporary, evacuation. Their protocol would be to open all hatches to ventilate the deadly hold and retreat to the small yawl, trailing the ship on a long tow line, waiting for the invisible danger to dissipate on the wind. But the Atlantic is not a forgiving waiting room. A sudden squall, a frayed rope, a single snapped line, and their lifeline to the Mary Celeste, and to life itself, would be instantly severed. So they would be left adrift, a tiny boat against the vast, indifferent ocean. It's a clean and logical theory, but does it account for everything? The uneaten meals. The captain's log left open. Where facts are scarce, fiction flourishes. The public, hungry for a resolution to the baffling silence from the Atlantic, became an eager audience for the most sensational of tales. The Mary Celeste, inviting storytellers, charlatans, and even a future literary icon to paint their own dramatic theories. In 1884, a young, pre-Sherlock Holmes Arthur Conan Doyle penned a dramatic short story, J. Habakkuk Jeffson's Statement. Presented a thrilling first-person account of mutiny and a racial vendetta aboard a vessel he renamed the Mary Celeste. A calculated piece of thrilling prose, yet its realism was so convincing that many readers accepted it as the testimony of a genuine survivor. Doyle's tale introduced lurid elements that have clung to the legend like barnacles, forever blurring the line between historical inquiry and popular entertainment. Then, as if from the depths themselves, another survivor emerged decades later. A man claiming to be Abel Fosdick sold a fantastical story to the Strand magazine, weaving a yarn of a giant octopus and a captain who foolishly led his crew and family into the sea for a swim, only to be taken by sharks. It was an elaborate and complete fabrication, a con artist's masterpiece. Yet it was devoured by a public that preferred a spectacular lie to an unsolvable truth. These hoaxes, while ultimately debunked, demonstrate a powerful human tendency. Our need to impose narrative upon the inexplicable, to trade a terrifying void for a story, no matter how false. In the end, we are left where we began. Adrift in a boundless sea of questions, the shores of certainty forever out of reach. Every plausible theory, every logical deduction, ultimately shipwrecks upon the rocks of missing evidence. We've considered mutiny, yet the crew was known for its discipline. We've entertained piracy, but the valuables, personal effects, and precious cargo remained untouched. An explosion of the industrial alcohol. The hatches were secure with no trace of a blast. A waterspout or a sudden squall. The Dei Gracia's crew found no significant damage, only the mundane disarray of a ship needing its master. The missing lifeboat, chronometer, and sextant point to an orderly, if inexplicably rushed, evacuation. But what terror could drive a seasoned mariner like Captain Briggs, a man accompanied by his wife and young daughter, to forsake a perfectly sound vessel for a fragile lifeboat in the vast, unforgiving Atlantic? It is a contradiction that defies all maritime logic. We have scrutinized the logs, charted the phantom winds, and walked the spectral decks in our minds 1,000 times. Yet, the truth remains as elusive as sea mist at dawn. The Mary Celeste did not just lose its crew. It shed its own story, leaving behind an empty stage, a vessel brimming with chilling silence and unanswered riddles. Perhaps the answer isn't a single dramatic event, but a subtle confluence of fear, miscalculation, and human error that we can no longer reconstruct. The ship sailed out of the annals of history and into the realm of legend. The 10 souls aboard, including little Sophia Matilda, were not just lost to the waves. They were absorbed by the fog of time itself, their final moments forever held in the ocean's silent, deep embrace. Their story is no longer one of evidence and fact, but has become a ghost story whispered on the tide. A permanent, haunting question mark etched upon the face of the sea, a timeless testament to the mysteries that lie just beyond our understanding.